The fluorescent lights hummed overhead in the underground parking garage as Marcus sat on the cold concrete floor, his journal open in his lap. The night security shift was supposed to be quiet, boring even, but tonight felt different. He could sense it in the way the shadows seemed to move just beyond the reach of the artificial light. Still writing in that book of yours? Marcus looked up to see Victoria approaching, her heels clicking against the polished floor. Even at 2 a.m., she looked impeccable in her tailored coat and business attire. As the building's property manager, she often worked late, but something about her presence tonight made Marcus uneasy. Just observations, Marcus replied carefully, closing the journal slightly. For the past 3 months, he'd been documenting strange occurrences in the building. People entering who never left. Elevator stops on floors that didn't exist on the building directory. Conversations in languages he couldn't identify echoing from empty conference rooms. Victoria smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. You know, Marcus, curiosity can be a dangerous thing in a place like this. What do you mean? Marcus asked, though he suspected he already knew. The thermos beside him, filled with coffee laced with a mild stimulant to keep him alert, suddenly felt like his only companion in this sterile underground world. This building houses more than just regular businesses, Victoria said, moving closer. Some of our tenants value their privacy very highly. They pay well for discretion. Marcus's hand instinctively moved to his journal. Inside were sketches of faces he'd seen on security cameras, faces that belonged to people who were supposed to be dead, according to news reports. There were notes about meetings held in soundproof rooms, about briefcases that glowed faintly in the dark, about elevators that descended to levels that shouldn't exist. I'm just doing my job, Marcus said, but his voice betrayed his nervousness. Your job is to watch the monitors and walk the perimeter, Victoria replied coldly. Not to write investigative reports. She gestured toward the journal. That needs to stop. Marcus stood up slowly, clutching the book to his chest. And if it doesn't? Victoria's expression hardened. Then you'll discover that some night shifts are permanent. The threat hung in the air like the chemical smell that sometimes drifted from the building's lower levels. Marcus looked around the garage, at the expensive cars that belonged to people who conducted business in the shadows, at the cameras that he now realized were probably watching him more closely than he'd ever imagined. You have a choice, Marcus, Victoria continued. Destroy that journal, forget what you think you've seen, and continue earning your paycheck. Or, she left the alternative unspoken. Marcus's mind raced. He thought about his sister who depended on the money he sent home, about the journalism degree he'd never been able to use, about the story that could change everything if it ever saw the light of day. Slowly, he opened the journal and looked at his neat handwriting, at the evidence of something far larger and more dangerous than he'd initially suspected. His hand trembled slightly as he held his pen.